in. Um, oh, thanks for setting that up, Desiree. All right. Well, my name is Jen Roscoe, and I'm a counselor with the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. And we got this call from the university to create a series of workshops that are helpful to workplace dynamics, but also can be really helpful for your home life and your relationships. And so you may notice that a lot of these skills are really helpful in all forms of relationships, whether you're a parent or a partner or however that works. Um, yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to Desiree because she is my tech goddess on the other end of of the country. You're at the south end.
Very appreciative of that. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate you. I always have some little funny hiccup that I stumble through, and everyone has been so gracious when I do that. So thanks. I'm just gonna thank everyone in advance if that happens. All right, well, let's get started. Let's see. We are here doing communication skills for life. And part of being a counselor is one of the things I like to share with folks are I like to begin sessions with giving everyone a skill that they can use in their everyday life that's not only for what we're doing in the class, but also you can just pull out of your back pocket at any time. And so today we're going to start with a mindfulness skill. And today I'm going to share with you the container. The container is just this really cool, quick mindfulness piece that you can use if you ever have something happen in your everyday life and you need to just kind of put it in a container and set it aside. Um, I'm going to do that 5 minute mindfulness piece at the beginning. And then I'm going to go into all the many ways we communicate, building awareness around that, go a little bit into nonverbal communication. I'm going to tie in emotional intelligence because that is just, we know now through research and just understanding of communication that emotional intelligence is really linked in how we communicate with others. Um, I'm going to just tap into empathy and what that looks like in communication. Touch in on those educational components. I'm a former teacher for 20 years in Montana. So I'm going to pull in just a little bit of the competencies that are associated not only with communication, but also our emotional intelligence. And then I'm going to go into kind of deeply into the power of words and how words are so, they really can dictate a direction or a path with communication. And so I'm going to go through probably 5 or 6 different words that can really change the direction within a relationship or just within a conversation. So, all right, let's get going to the next slide. All right. So today's mindfulness tool is the container. And so for this piece, this is mindfulness where you're welcome to turn off your screen and you can mute yourself. And I'm just going to lead us in a short 5 minute visualization called the container. And the container is, it's really it's a metaphor for some sort of container that you can put something that's dysregulating in the moment into and come back to later. One thing about the container that I always like to preface with clients or if I'm working with groups is that we want our container to have a lid, but that we can open it up later. So if you want to make that container like tight and throw it away in the bottom of the ocean, and you can never get it again, that's not what we're doing. We're going to make sure that that container has some sort of lid that you can open back up and come back to it later. Some people have the question of, you know what? Is that okay? Can I really set something aside? Is that me wanting to move into avoidance with the situation? And yeah, that is a really good question to notice. One thing is we're pretty busy. A lot of us are juggling like kids and work and partners and jobs and all the things in life. And so sometimes we just don't have the capacity in that moment or in that conversation to be able to deal with what's happening. And so if you can find a way to metaphorically within your psyche, within your internal self, to set it aside and know that I'm going to come back to this later, that's what we're doing. Okay, so let's just begin by closing your eyes, and you can also hold a soft gaze. And we're just going to focus inward for a minute. And we know that when we focus inward, that it's a little bit easier to activate imagination by closing our eyes and also just regulating breath. So just go ahead and begin to breathe comfortably. And with your next breath, I'd like you to take a deep breath in and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And again, big breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just settling into the space that you are, allowing your shoulders to drop, allowing your head to just feel settled and comfortable. Moving more into the space that you are now, allowing any muscles you may be holding to just relax, allowing your feet to touch the floor, and just noticing that the way you're touching the floor, go ahead and greet the earth, pushing back up to you so you can feel grounded in the space that you are. And so in activating imagination, I want you to think about a container that you would like. And this container could be an actual physical container that you have at home. This could be a pencil box from kindergarten. This could be a jewelry box from when you were little. Or maybe you just had a secret place in the backyard where you could dig into the earth and you could put things in there. Other people's imagination move to beyond an actual physical object and actually using the idea of light. A container could be anything in your imagination, from a magical creature that can just hold it for you and fly back in from some other universe. Or you could actually use a physical object that you know and you like. So let's just allow thinking parts to relax for a moment and see what container comes to you. All right, so once you can see your container in front of you, let's just focus in on it and just kind of like check it out. First, I want you to focus in on what it looks like. Let's take a 360 view. Check out the top, the lid. What does it feel like? Go ahead and touch it. Notice, is it fuzzy? Is it soft? Opening the lid, looking inside. What is it like on the inside? Can it expand? Is it glassy? Is it cold? Is it warm? Feeling the outside edges, looking at the bottom. Notice if the lower part of the container is different than the lid. Focusing in a little more. What does this container smell like? Is there a smell of nostalgia from childhood? Is there no smell? Is there a secret smell that every time you open it, you get a smell lavender or mint or some smell that you enjoy, like chocolate chip cookies? How does the lid attach to the container? What is the hinge? Or is there a hinge? Notice how you will open and close this container. Some people have had a literal mountain as their container, and they're able to just conjure the top of that mountain to rise, to put whatever they don't want to deal with in that moment into the mountain, and then close the top of the mountain. So how can you open and close it? Go ahead and feel into that. And let's just notice smell. What does this container smell like? What do you notice? Are there any sounds with this container when you open it? Is there any sound that's inside the container that may be different than the outside? And now size. Let's just take a moment for thinking about this container can live with you wherever you are. So imagining that this container has the ability to be very tiny and then open up big whenever you need it. This container could live in a special place where you know it's safe. So think about a place now where you know this container, when you go to it or call it to you, that it's in a safe place. And this place could be an invisible pocket that's always with you. This place could be something from childhood, or literally a place that you have at home now that you know is safe. Wherever the place is, notice where your container, where you can keep it. All right, well, let's just take a moment to put something in there. And just think about your week or think about the past month or year. What's something that you're feeling a little stuck with, something that maybe is just tough right now and it pops into your mind, often, something that maybe you could tend to ruminate on or fixate and just kind of can take over your thoughts. I want you to think of whatever that is, and then go ahead and turn that thing, that situation, whatever it is, into an object. And that object could be anything from lights, it could be a ribbon, it could be a letter with words on it. Whatever you think of, just go ahead and allow your mind to soften for a minute and see what this situation, what object you can turn it into. And go ahead and send that object to your container, noticing how easily it can just move in there, noticing that the container can expand and hold whatever it is. And go ahead and allow the lid or the top to close, knowing that you're going to come back to it later and pull it back out later. But for now, you're just going to set it aside because you've got other things to do. And go ahead and put that container in its safe place. And we're just going to slowly come back into the here and now. So go ahead and take a deep breath. If it feels good, if you need to stretch, go ahead and stretch. Welcome back. All right. Go ahead and turn your screens back on. Since this is a communication class, it's helpful for us to be able to see each other and share. And so, yeah, what are people noticing? Please unmute yourself and let's find out how the container mindfulness exercise, what came up for people. What do you notice?
Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Holly.
I noticed that I have a small attention span.
Very normal.
It's hard to, your mind is always all over the place. So
yeah,
I find that it's difficult, but I like it and I feel good, but I do feel the mind wandering.
Thanks for sharing that. And gosh, I love that you started with that first, because I just want to normalize how our minds, it's like, some people call it the monkey mind. It's moving all over the place. And so every time we adjust our mind and bring it back into focus, we are building that muscle. So good job today. You definitely rocked it, kept moving back in and becoming more intentional with what I was guiding. So way to go. What else did people notice?
Being peaceful.
Okay,
And
lovely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Kim.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Anyone else? Nicole?
I feel like so I've never heard of this mindfulness skill and I really appreciate it. I think it can be helpful on various levels. But I just feel like it can take, I don't want to call it the clutter, but the clutter that you might have in your mind or in your day-to-day life, and you're able to take it and just kind of set it aside so that you can focus on what you really need to focus on here and now, and you're able to come back to it.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, you could have just said that at the beginning and then I could have done it. You just basically laid it out what we just did. And it's true. This is a really great little tool for your back pocket because we got a lot going on, and sometimes we don't have time to deal with whatever's happening. Another cool tip I want to give with this is, and this is a tool that we counselors use with clients, is sometimes people if they tend to ruminate and think about something that's dysregulating, sometimes we'll allow them to have like homework. Like, okay, every day for 5 minutes, I want you to worry about that thing. I want you to worry so hard for 5 minutes. You're going to set a timer and you're going to worry that like as hard as you can. Like, think about every component of it and just like feel it in your system. And then when you're done, when that timer goes off, it's okay. You go ahead and put that back in the container and go back to what you got to get done within your day. You know, the dishes, the dinner, doing the laundry, doing all the things. And so that's another just like tool that you can add to the container. If you find yourself thinking about something over and over again, put it into your schedule, set time aside and just go ahead and really, really like think about it, ruminate on it, but then set it aside again. Because if it dictates your day, gosh, that doesn't feel good. If you just like have a slow stream of worry all the time throughout your day and the sink keeps coming up, then that doesn't feel good in the system. All right. Okay, let's move on. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to share. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and I was just gonna tell you
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I worked, with clients at the South Dakota Department of Labor and Regulation, and I worked a grant that helped education and empowerment, and so many were unemployed, and so I would tell them, okay, you can freak out for 5 minutes a day about this. You can embrace the uncertainty, you can just, whatever it is, just go ahead, but then after that, then let's just apply for a couple of jobs, or let's work on our resume, or let's take a step in the positive direction. But I would always tell them, like, go ahead, 5 minutes a day, totally freak out.
Yeah, Holly. That's so great. It works. It's pretty cool. Our psyches are so complex and we can get in there and pivot when we need to and help ourselves. And that's just, I love that you shared that with your clients. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right. So we're going to move into just communication, and this is pretty interesting. We communicate mostly non-verbally, and we actually usually only communicate with only like 15 to 20% is communication through words. And about 65 to 70% of how we communicate with others is through nonverbal communication. And that's everything from, your body language, how you are holding yourself, the way you use your hands, holding eye contact, whether or not people are looking around. Oftentimes people, when they're looking for words, they look up and they're looking over to kind of like find the right words to convey what's happening for them. Voice inflection. This is really interesting in that babies learn this so young, and what the tone or the inflection that happens from the mother, from the caregiver, is really key in understanding what's happening. A text, oh gosh, so texting. Anyone ever get a text where it's just kind of lost in translation and you're like, I'm not sure if they're mad or if they're excited or just whatever it is. And so text is another way that we spend a lot of time communicating. And emojis were developed basically so we could throw in what the emotion is, because when you just read it, sometimes you can't tell. We also learn through symbols. And symbols are more than just like what you would think, like the bathroom sign, which bathroom to go into or whatever. We use symbolism through the ways we dress, through the ways that we decorate our homes. We communicate in a lot of other ways that are physical and through objects. And so yeah, I'm just noticing I have a question here. And so this poll, Desiree is going to help me with this. Thanks, Desiree. Go ahead and notice what's your most influential communication skill? Which one do you think you use the most? And go ahead and just take a second. All right. Okay. So kind of went up and down. That was kind of fun to watch the poll move. We got eye contact is pretty high for folks, and I'm sure you use other forms as well. But if it seems like eye contact seems to be a little bit higher for others. Texting, a lot of people are texting a lot, and especially after COVID, it's been such a big jump in how we communicate, and yeah, and then verbal words and sounds. So thanks for sharing with that. All right. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Do we need anything else with that, Desiree?
I think that's it. Is it now off the
That's
screen?
it.
Is it off?
Cool. Technology. That's fun. That was another form of communication. All right. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one. Okay. So nonverbal communication. I just thought this was really interesting. I'm missing a image. Okay. So these are some of the ones I was just talking about. We got facial expression, head movements, body posture, personal space. So let's just pause here for a sec, because this is pretty interesting in the way that we tend to notice that if we are just around someone we don't really know, the proximity tends to be around 10 feet where people feel comfortable within proximity of another. Studies show that acquaintances or just colleagues is a little bit closer, 4 to 10 feet. And friends and family, you're getting closer, you're going 18 inches to 4 feet. And then our partners in our core family are, 18 inches to, yeah, close. We're touching a little bit more. One thing to notice is that culturally, this can be different across cultures. And even in Montana, we have different ways of feeling comfortable within personal space. And gosh, for me, I lived in Finland for a year. And so that was one of the first things I noticed is like the proximity of space between me and people around me was completely different than growing up in Montana. And so, yeah, there's just another way of communicating is through proximity. All right. We also got touch. And, some people like to be touched and some people don't. And that's always something to kind of tune into to notice, like, what are your love languages? For some people, physical touch is really, really important. And for others, yeah, no, they don't like that piece as much. But context is everything. All right. Is there anything anyone notices about this slide or wants to share and how proximity or any other nonverbal communication, what you've noticed in the workplace or at home or traveling? All right.
It's
Well, I'm going to
just kind
keep
of a
going.
little sidebar, but,
Go ahead, Holly.
back
Yeah.
to the Department of Labor and Regulation, like interviews, really, they say are 93% how you look in your voice inflection, and about 6% or the 7% is about how you answer the question and the context. So they say interview,
Wow.
basically, they'll make a call on you in an interview in about 3 seconds
Okay.
based on
Woo.
what you look in your voice inflection. So just a little sidebar, but communication is important too, but or nonverbal communication in interviews too, and making that eye contact, but still, it's okay to look away as when you talk to clients, and then you can come back to eye contact and stuff. But it's so huge. Like nonverbal communication is just, it's a lot.
Oh, that's so helpful to know that about interviews. My next interview, I'm gonna store that away and pull that out later. Thanks,
Well, I
Holly.
coach people on the side if you need any help.
Oh, nice. Okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right. So, okay, we're going to go into just a little bit on communication and emotional intelligence, because yeah, we really convey a lot without speaking in what you're feeling. So I just thought this was a funny little meme here. Um, all right, so going into communication, this is just a little bit of the educational piece of competencies, and this is focused first on yourself. So within communication, it's so helpful to be self-aware within the self, like your emotional awareness of where you're at, the way you can assess yourself, the way you notice how you're feeling, if you're feeling confident when you walk out the door. This all dictates how we communicate with others. Self-regulation. Yeah, this is again focused on the self, the way that you can adapt, the way you can find new innovative ways to communicate, and also what is your self-control? If you're communicating with someone else and someone says something that you might feel a spike within your system, like a trigger being pushed. Are you able in that moment to hold back for just a minute, take a deep breath, and instead of reacting? And so communication within emotional intelligence, our own self-regulation, it's really helpful to notice, gosh, what do I do? How am I? If someone says something I don't like, or if I see something online, what is the reaction? Do you react, or do you take a second to just notice, okay, I'm feeling really upset right now. Take a minute to just kind of step back. The third competency within the self is motivation. So we know that our emotional intelligence can dictate also our achievement, the way we move through the room, the way we hold ourselves, how we feel. If we're feeling on the opposite end of like negative throughout the day, or if we're feeling optimistic and positive, this all correlates to how we communicate with others. So on the other end of this is social competencies within communication with others. So social skills. Yeah. How do we communicate? How do we lead? How do we build collaboration with others and cooperation? And so if you're in a power role or in an influential role, noticing the way that you lead your team, and I'm going to get into this more when we touch in on words, but this is how this dictates within the field of like working with others. Also social awareness, like being able to read the room, like walking into a room, noticing what the vibe is, noticing others, being aware of diversity, and also, just understanding. And at the bottom down there, you might notice that I've highlighted empathy and compassion. So I just want to take one sec with these two words because people get these mixed up. And I just want to touch in on them for a second. So people think they kind of correlate, like people think they're pretty similar, but empathy is really the ability to feel the feelings with another. And so compassion is more on the opposite end of really noticing if someone else is struggling and you can be present with them, but not necessarily being overtaken maybe with their grief or overtaken with the feelings that they're feeling, like being able to be with someone, but not necessarily feeling all the feels. And so empathy and compassion are pretty key points that I wanted to touch in on. And I have, this is my very favorite video by Brene Brown, and many of you maybe have seen this before, but this is just a short 2-minute video touching in actually on the difference with empathy and sympathy. So I talked about compassion, but this is another one. So I'm going to just roll this. Can you hear the sound? Okay.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
All right. Love that video. And so, yeah, what are people, whoops, oh, it just started back up. What are folks noticing about that video? She touched in on a lot of stuff. What do people notice?
I guess I like to kind of think of empathy as kind of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Maybe you've never experienced whatever they might be going through, but just knowing that you're there in the moment.
Totally. Yeah. So being able to really put on whatever it is that they're dealing with and really notice what that is like and feel it at the same time. It's great. Yeah. Anyone else notice anything about that?
I think it was good to know that there's a difference. I guess I haven't really thought about it, I mean, empathy, sympathy, compassion and stuff. So that was educational. I mean, it's good to think about. And that was a great little way to do it.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, cartoons. So good.
I was, Jen, I was thinking about all the events in my life. I'm 66, and all the events that were either sympathy, empathy, or compassion. either myself giving those features or them being given to me. So it was, it really triggered a lot of reflection.
A reflection. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Kim. Yeah, and we've all done these, right? We've all moved into one form or the other, or received one form or the other. Yeah, thanks for sharing, everyone. I noticed for me, the first time I saw this video, I noticed, oh gosh, I always want to go into problem solving mode with someone else and kind of do the silver lining thing of trying to help someone feel better. So for me, it was moving into another gear of learning how to just sit and be with someone that they just shared something, instead of like trying to fix it. And so that was one of the first things I got from watching that video. Okay, I'm going to keep going on time, stay on task here. We're going to move into words. And oh, I just love teaching about the power of words. And so I'm going to kind of move through each one of these statements, these words, and this is going to kind of be the last thing we're going to end on. But let's start with but. Let's focus in on like the difference between but and. So but is a pretty interesting word. We hear it all the time. It pretty much permeates our culture, and we see it on TV shows, and our parents say it, and I say it, and you say it. And let's just break it down. So when someone says something like, you know what, girl, I just love you so much, but yeah, you blah, 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 whatever it is that is said after that. What tends to happen within the mind for the person when they hear but is everything that was said before but pretty much gets negated. Even if you say something really, really positive to someone and then you say but, they will focus on the negative part that you say after that. And that's just how our minds tend to do. We tend to focus first on what the negative statement is and not even hear the positive thing before the but. And so one thing I like coaching with communication is replacing but with and. So if you can kind of notice throughout your week this week, when you're about to say but, see if you can kind of slide in the word and, because and is a word that can kind of soften and help people not bring up like that wall or that defensiveness that people feel after someone says but. So yeah, like Desiree, I appreciate you so much. You helped me so, so much, but you didn't really like do the poll thing right. Like, how did that feel? Probably not very good, right? Yeah, that's not nice. I didn't mean any of that, by the way. I'm just, you're my educational prop right now. But yeah, if I use the word and, Desiree, thank you so much for helping me today with the technology piece. And I'm wondering if maybe before we start, you and I can talk about the poll thing, because I am a little confused with it. Does that sound okay?
It's
Okay.
much softer.
Did that feel a little better? Yeah. And so when you can replace the word and then also add in a way to collaborate with the other person, that usually can open up more ways of figuring out connection and also keep the ball rolling without people just shutting down. Okay, I'm going to move to always and never. So always and never, we use these all the time. I just said it. So always and never tend to be black and white thinking. And so when we're in black and white thinking, it's usually it's this or it's that. There's no real spectrum in between of noticing what the possibilities are in between all or nothing. And so think about it. If you say to your partner, oh, you always leave the toilet seat up. You never do the dishes. It's pretty concrete, right? And then the other person, usually when they hear always and never, it kind of puts them in this box where they can't really move, and it feels like, well, you know what, actually I have put down the toilet seat and I did the dishes last week. And so it can actually end up instigating more conflict. And so noticing the term always and never, and how you also talk about other people, and noticing that, who do I put in this like black and white boxes? Who is someone that maybe I think about that's like always like this, or, you know, or they're never like this. So those are words also to notice in your vocabulary. The next one is shoulding. So this is a term we counselors use, shoulding yourself, or shoulding others. So shoulding is kind of like that finger wagging. And, you know, everyone's done this where they should themselves and they say, oh gosh, I really should be, you know, not eating all that Halloween candy. I really should be working out. I really should be doing X, Y, or Z. And we all do this to ourselves, but we also do it to others. And we may not even say it to them to their face, but we can often feel that kind of judgment about what we think people should do. And I know some counselors even replace the word with shoulding with SHITing themselves or others. So yeah, just contemplate that in your use of should. And if you should on yourself, or if you should on others, because should, it tends to people to move into a place of feeling like they need to protect themselves, or they'll put walls up. And that's a word to just notice in your vocabulary. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. We're moving into closed and open-ended questions. So a closed-ended question usually ends in like a yes or no answer. And an open-ended question is usually really helpful in that it keeps the conversation going. So an open-ended question really tends to be like, what did you notice? I keep doing this over and over with all of you. What did you notice? What did you notice with that? I'm not asking you for a yes or no, but I'm asking you to think a little bit more and maybe describe a little bit more what your experience is. And so noticing that what an open-ended question is can keep conversations going. Why? Oh, wow. Why is so interesting. When I first learned about this, I'm like, oh, I do this all the time. So why is a word that tends to bring up defensiveness in other people. And notice, even if you say it with a certain tone, it comes across that way. Desiree, why would you do blah, blah, blah? Just, you know, I am feeling like pretty superior and feeling pretty righteous, even as I say that, even though I can't think of something to say to you in this moment. Just like putting on the word why, it usually brings up a defensiveness in the other, and people want to get away. They're like, oh no, what's coming? You know, this why question is there. And so noticing if you think about others, like why would they do that? And then notice if you say that to other people about others. Or even if you're thinking about yourself. So why is another word that you can kind of soften. And we can do that with I statements, and there's you statements as well. So you statements tend to be a little bit more pointy with the finger. You made me feel really angry. So when we say things like you made me or you did, it's actually an interesting form of giving away your power, because you're basically saying you're doing this to me. I have zero way of taking care of myself. I just gave you all the power. I statements give you back your own autonomy, making the statement of, you know what, I'm noticing I'm upset right now and I just need a minute. No one can really like disagree that you're not feeling that way. If you're feeling upset right there, that is your truth. You're feeling upset. But if you say, you made me feel upset, then that person can definitely move into defensiveness and also want to get into a battle about whether or not they made you feel that way. But if you are feeling legitimately upset and you say, I feel this way, then that is one way that you can move into resolution, is starting with an I statement versus a you statement. And so, yeah, this is a lot. I know I just like blurted all these all this information about words, and I'd love to hear what people are noticing. What do you notice about but or always or why or shoulding? What do people notice?
Jen, it's Sally.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead,
Hey,
Sally.
Sally.
I was able to come late. Anyway, I can relate to the why concept because I have a friend who, if I state something rather than validating what I say, she challenges it, and it is uncomfortable. It's like yeah. I really related to that. I relate to all of them actually, but that one was something recent. And I thought to myself, why are you challenging me on something that I'm feeling? You know, but it's just a part of who she is. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Right. Yeah, thanks for normalizing that, Sally. Because yeah, why is something we all do, and when we experiencing it, it definitely doesn't feel good. I'm just gonna read the chat real quick. We got Stephanie saying, "I don't have a mic, but I never consider when you say why you're giving up your autonomy. I never considered how." Oh, she never considered about when you give up your autonomy with that piece. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Stephanie. What else are people noticing?
And although it's all fascinating too, and it's interesting how it's just like one little word can shift everything, it's so significant. When you work with people and stuff, that's so important. But I appreciated the comment about the shitting because I like I'm in a workout slump. I've been shitting myself for like a long time and I didn't realize it, but that when you added the little snippet about putting the other word in, that makes sense. And I gotta reframe that. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna talk to myself a little bit more positive because that's not motivating, right? And then another thing I recently heard of the words retaliation rocks. Like if you're in a fight with your spouse or someone, and then you're whipping out words like, you never do this, you never do that. That's a retaliation rock. You don't want to do that. So just yesterday, I was telling my husband, I was like, I have learned the word retaliation rocks, and I'm not going to be doing that anymore.
Oh, this is so cool to get another level of learning about black and white statements to others, retaliation rocks. Yeah, it's like a rock and you're like throwing it. Yeah, that always and never. Cool. Thanks for adding in with the learning and then also the shooting piece. We're so hard on ourselves. We will literally, I don't think we would treat our friends some ways in the way that we treat ourselves. And so any way that we can be softer and more loving, and as you said, positive with ourselves, we tend to move into feeling more softer and loving with others because we're giving ourselves that gift first. And then it's a little bit easier to flow that back out to others. And so, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I've been doing the shooting thing with the Halloween candy, so I brought up that one for me. All right. Anyone else notice anything?
I was gonna touch base on the you versus I. So I do try to use a lot of I statements just because nobody else is responsible really for making you feel the way you do. So I think, I'm in the HR field, so employee relations manager. So I really try anytime to use those I statements. I just think it's really beneficial because you start moving into the you and yeah, it's like a brick wall. I mean, and you're putting the blame. I mean, I feel like you're putting blame on other people when you need to like take the ownership.
Mm-hmm. Ah, such good words, Nicole. Ownership and responsibility. That is basically the underlying base of I statements versus you statements. And that when you take responsibility for how you feel and what your experience is, you're owning that. You're owning that piece, and you're not giving away your power to someone else with the you. Plus, it doesn't work. It doesn't really work to blame others. This is one of the hard kind of things for some people when they first get into therapy and understanding is that no one makes you feel any way. It's you choose every day how you feel. And while there may be circumstances that are tough and hard and things that happen that are out of our control, we still have the power to choose how we want to feel in any moment. And so that's when the real work comes in of choosing how you want to feel. And that's another class that we can go into. That's a whole fun thing to swim into and learn more about. But it does come down, like you said, to that responsibility and also shifting blame. It's so delicious to blame others. Oh, it feels so good. Like, shifting the responsibility onto the other is easy. It's easy to do. And so anytime that you move into noticing what's my responsibility here, how can I take control of how I feel in this moment, then you move into your own power, and you also move into like making the choices to feel better throughout your day instead of blaming someone else or something else, whatever it is. Thanks so much. All right. Nicole, I appreciate that. I might have called you Holly just now. I don't know if I did that. Sorry. Anyone else want to share about what they're noticing about the power of words? We have 5 more minutes. And so this is kind of my last slide, and there's a lot of information in there.
So Jen, I would like to point out that in communication, sometimes what's more powerful is what is actually not said, and learning to read people as they're saying what they're actually not saying, and ruminate on that before you go further with opening your own mouth. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Kim. And you're kind of bringing us back around to some of the earlier slides. And the next class, I'm going to go more into listening strategies, and also more into communication and the power of just what you just said and what is said before the words. There's a lot of information in how we hold ourselves and what brings forward. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right, let's say, oh, it looks like Desiree. Thank you, Desiree. She is just reminding me too that we have a feedback. We'd like to, I want to get better. And so please, any feedback you can give me on how I can improve these courses, please go ahead and take the time to fill that out. Okay, is there anything else with this slide?
Jen, I kept thinking about that quote. I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt who always said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your own consent."
Mm.
Which is exactly I think what we were talking about.
Mm. Yeah, Eleanor Roosevelt, so good. Thank you for sharing that. That's a good one to just put on the wall, put on your bathroom window. Remember that every day. That's enough. All right, so this is kind of what we went over today. I'm just going to go through it real quick. We did a mindfulness skill first. I taught you a tool on containment with a container. So hopefully maybe pull that out this week and see if it works for you, and if you can come back to it later. And that's just a really nice tool. That's something you can teach your kids, and they can use that in school. It's very helpful. I did this when I was a teacher. This really came in handy quite a bit with the little ones. Like, oh, can we put that in your container and come back to it at the end of the day and check in? And so they just would. The other thing we just touched in on was the many ways we communicate. And I appreciate Kim for kind of directing us back to that nonverbal communication. We went into a little bit about emotional intelligence and how it's connected with communication, touched in on that Brene Brown with her awesome video with empathy, communication competencies, and then ending with the power of words and just some words to notice and be mindful of. So in finishing up today, just any takeaways, or what are people are noticing that might be something nice for their back pocket?
I'm making a joke, Jen. I want to say that I always enjoy your presentations and I'm never sorry that I participated. It's a joke.
Thank you, Sally. Sally's been at all the classes, and so I appreciate you. Thanks, Sally.
I enjoy getting to be with other people that we don't get to be with, you know, in our work.
Yeah.
I mean, across the state and stuff. And I just enjoy the camaraderie and that we're even able to do this. Like I always say, I feel so grateful, you know, as a longtime government employee that we're finally here. It's like, yes.
Yes, totally. Oh, well, that's such great feedback. And I am hoping that with the next class series to make it weekly and create more of like, it's a group situation, because it feels like to me, like there's always so much wisdom in the room with all of you. You're all sharing so many great little nuggets to put in your back pocket. And so, yeah, thanks for sharing that, Holly.
Jen, I hope you'll continue to make them open to the public, but I know that might not be possible. But I'm
Oh,
not,
yeah.
you know, I'm retired. So anyway.
Oh, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, okay. I'll definitely bring that to my team.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, I, of course, work for a nonprofit, not connected to the state or anything, but I think these are really helpful, not only for ourselves and our own well-being, but maybe ways that we can take it into our own workplaces and present these, to hopefully just improve well-being all around.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Nicole. Yeah. And if you're interested in any of my PowerPoints to share with your team, yeah, I'm happy to share any tools or tricks or strategies. Yeah, if you would like them. Okay, well, I think we're at time. So I appreciate you all just taking the time to come to this class. And also, you know, it's a little self-care and connection with others. And I appreciate so much all the sharing. Really, really great today. So have a wonderful day. And hopefully I'll see you at the next communication class in 2 weeks, or I think it's 3 weeks, actually. It's the week after Thanksgiving is what I noticed, right, Desiree?
November 30th.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a break. We'll see you after Thanksgiving. Good luck with communication with all the families and the cousins and the uncles and all the good stuff. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Desiree, too.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Fun.
Okay. Well, good.
It's great. I love it.
Done. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was really good. I love it. I really love they're rethinking about the words. And I've heard that a few times, you know what I mean? But I think
Yeah.
if you don't practice it all the time, you kind of forget it. So
It's
yeah.
true. Yeah. It's like I have to rehear this over and over again to, you know, for it to go another level deeper. And I'm lucky because I get to teach it. So then yeah, but